Hello, sweet viewers. Annyeong, that means hi in Korean. I'm Christine with Kimbap TV, empowering you to live a happier and safer life, especially if you're a fellow domestic violence survivor. In today's video, I'm going to touch on a very sensitive topic. It's about suicide awareness. Now, this is a topic that never crossed my mind until I became a domestic violence survivor. And although I never wished to cause harm to myself, I thought about the road ahead of me and just thought it was too hard, sometimes, and I just felt so discouraged and so hopeless. And so today I want to introduce you to a new friend who is a suicide survivor, and I'm hoping that we could learn a lot from his experience. So let's get started. Hi Juan, how are you doing?
I'm doing good today. I can't complain. I'm blessed. Even with everything going on with the pandemic, it's kind of like your mental state of mind now is more relevant than ever to make sure you constantly take care of yourself. So I'm doing good. How about yourself?
I'm okay, thank you. I'm glad that you're here, and I'm glad that you're now using your experience to try to help other people. I just wanted to hear your story and how you overcame your obstacles.
So just a little backstory with me is I went through a lot of things growing up as a child as far as being bullied through school. Then when my parents split, that had a big effect on me when my mother and father decided to separate and go their separate ways. And then my dad was really missing out of the majority of my life during that time, especially from adolescence to teenage years. We have a relationship now because 2 years ago I did forgive him. Then also relationships was failed. The girlfriends that I was with, the cheating and stuff like that. It just kind of just made me question my own existence or question who I was as a person. I just felt really lost at that point in time. I felt like everything that I had worked hard for, everything that I believed in and stuff like that, it just out of nowhere I was just numb to the pain on everything. And so that's what led me to my suicide attempt when I was in college at the age of 22, getting ready to be 23. I kind of just hit rock bottom. I had my guardian angel at the time, who was a former manager of mine, who was the one that I know that God used as a vessel to intervene in my suicide attempt. She had reached out, via text message, and it just says, "Are you okay?" And so after that, she would text, and then she called, I know, well over like 20 something times before I finally picked up the phone. She just basically said, "Juan, are you okay? What's wrong?" And then I broke down in tears. And then I just basically let her know that I was getting ready to commit suicide. We met up at this Starbucks, and she just listened to me talk for 5 hours. At that point in time, that's really all I wanted, was somebody to hear what I was going through. I'm always there for everybody else, and the friends that I had, who I'm no longer friends with, at that time that I was going through these things, they weren't there for me like I was there for them through all of their things. So that kind of taught me a lot about friendship and how loyal friends can be, and how so many of us are so selfish and we're so self-entitled that we don't want to take the time to be there for others because it's always about us, I. So it did give me a different perspective on how I view friendships after that. And so the build-up process, after that suicide attempt was very difficult because it took me 2.5 years before I initially got out of that mental state of mind of still wanting to take my life and just wanting to still be here on this earth and live my life out, according to God's will and His calling for me. So during that 2.5 years, I was on earth, to be honest with you, but I really wasn't here. Mentally, I wasn't here. Physically, my body was here, if I can put it to you that way. And then one day when we was heading to church, my mom had looked over at me and she just said, "I know everything is going wrong and stuff like that," but she was just like, "I want my son back." And that's kind of like what triggered in my mind to be like, okay, you know what, this is affecting my parents, this is affecting my family, just as well as it's affecting those friends that I had. Let me try to sit up here and get out of this fog and try to have that love for life again like I once had when I was a child growing up, before everything seemed to hit rock bottom. And so, that's how I did it. I just basically took that self-love and I made sure I took care of myself mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally. I just put Juan first and just did what Juan wanted to do and made sure that Juan was happy, and no matter what it was, he did moving forward. And then in about 2015, God placed it on my heart about, this foundation, when it came to suicide. And of course, at that point in time, I'm still building myself back up. So, I kind of dismissed it. I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I said, "Oh, I'm not going to do that. Like, no, I'm not ready to share my story like that to the world." My close family and friends knew. And to me, that was good enough. It wasn't something that I wanted to broadcast to the entire world. And so, then in 2017, he placed it on my heart again. So I moved to California for my acting career. And so at this point in time, I was in one of my commercial classes, and the instructor had made a comment that stuck with me. And it was basically like, sometimes our passions in life are not our purpose in life. And that stuck to me because I'm like, my passion has always been acting. But yet I wanted to commit suicide, and I have this story that now is a part of my life and is going to be a part of my life forever. And around that time, during that year, all you were seeing was suicide attempts, or you were seeing people dying of suicide, whether they were Kate Spade or Robin Williams, individuals who was not on that type of, plateau as far as like, socially economic and stuff like that. It just seemed like it was everywhere. And it didn't matter the range. You had them from age 6, which is the earliest that somebody has ever committed suicide, up until the age of 70. And it didn't matter what your nationality was. It didn't matter what your religious background was. It didn't matter what your sexual orientation was. It just affected everyone. So I went to prayer. I just prayed and asked God, if this is something that you want me to do, then just guide me and lead me to exactly what it is that you want. And then after that, in 2018, that's when I started doing the blueprints of everything and getting everything together. And then December 12th of 2018, that's when I shared for the first time publicly to the world through a Facebook video about my suicide attempt, and letting them know that in 2019, the Juan Young Foundation was going to be here for suicide prevention. And so that's where we are now, with the foundation. And the main goal is to instill that hope and love back into individuals who have lost it during the things that we go through in life. It's always a root to why someone wants to take suicide. And really, you always have to go way back to childhood, because whatever traumatic experience that we as individuals go through at an early age is stuff that we suppress down within us. And it's stuff that we just try to like put stuff on top of so we don't have to think about it. You look at where we're in right now, we're in a pandemic. COVID-19 has literally shut down the entire world. And a lot of people are facing things that they've never faced in their life, period. You have people losing homes. You have people losing their jobs. You have people losing their transportation. You have families breaking up due to this, this pandemic, that a lot of people mentally are not able to cope with everything that's going on right now, because we've never been in a situation like this. Now, yeah, the last pandemic we had to this caliber was in 1918, when that was the flu. And, within the course of 2 years, it killed over 50 million people. So when you kind of look at where we are fast forward over 100 years later, we're literally in that same thing. But according to the Bible, these things are going to happen. God never said that it was going to be easy in this life. He's always said that it was going to be wars. It was going to be the pestilence. It was going to be, the earthquake and stuff like that. We're seeing all these things right now. So what we have to understand is just like, God is in control, but we have to literally stay in prayer with him, communicate with him, and have him guide us to what he wants. Because remember, it's his will for our life, not our will. One of my favorite scriptures in the Bible is Proverbs 3:5, and it's basically, you trust in the Lord with all your heart, and you lean not on your own understanding. And that was the main scripture after my suicide attempt, when I had, was in my Bible studies. And, I was always the one that's like, I had to be in control of everything. Like every aspect of my life, I had to be in control of, not realizing that there's certain things that happen in life that you can't control. If you had to ask me this at the age of 10, would I ever consider committing suicide? My answer back then would have been no, because who just wants to sit up there and take their life like that? It's a precious gift that God gives us. Nobody just wakes up one day and say, oh, I'm going to take my life. It's stuff that happens over the course of our lives that we go through, that we start having that ideation because we hit rock bottom to the things that we all go through. But when you look at it, the things that we go through, it makes us stronger. I look at my suicide attempt, and the more and more that I talk about it now, and even when the foundation was launched, I'm a lot stronger in it now, because my joy is being able to help other people who have gone through what I went through, hearing their stories and be able to talk to them and share my stories with them to let them know that they're not alone. And that's what it has been when it comes to suicide. Nobody ever wanted to talk about it. It was almost like this thing that we all threw up under the rug. Like somebody mentioned suicide. Oh, you guys are crazy. Oh, you guys are weak. You're not strong enough. Why would you want to take your life? Not knowing what we have been through. And, that's why I always try to educate, individuals on when it comes to that, like suicide ideation, mental illness, all those things go hand in hand. They are all very different, but they all go hand in hand. And it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with your strength or how strong you want to be perceived by, everybody else out there in the world. It has to do with what you went through on your own personal experiences. And our experiences are completely different. Somebody could have went through the same thing I went through, with parents splitting, being bullied all through school, just so many things left and right, that they would have been strong enough not to allow that to overpower their mind to where they just wanted to end their life because they couldn't deal with it anymore. And then you have some that it may be something as simple as they watch their parents in a domestic violence relationship where they watch their father, beating their mother consistently. That caused them to be like, okay, well, am I the cause of that? Like, they're having these arguments, but sometimes the arguments is based on me. What am I doing to sit up there and cause them to do that? That they may feel like, oh, maybe the best way for me to do is to eliminate myself and kill myself. And then maybe my parents will not sit up there and, be in these domestic violence actions. Whatever the case may be, everybody's story is different. But what I always tell everybody is, that's your story. That's your testimony. And don't ever allow somebody to make you feel less of a person, because we all go through things. And it's just how we all go through them is differently, because we're all individual people. Look at it now with this pandemic, and I see it. So many people that I talk to, and I see the hurt and I see the pain in their eyes, that they're all going through stuff. And it's just like your heart goes out, because I know where you guys are at. I was there 10 years ago. April 17th of 2020, I just celebrated my 10 years since my suicide attempt. I went into the 2010 decade, wanted to take my life, but then I go into this new decade in 2020, having a foundation in place for the very own reason what I was going to take my life 10 years ago. So I look at that and I said, that was nothing by chance. That was nothing but God. Like, he ordained that, me not even knowing that he was using me at that particular time in my life to sit up here and be that voice for all his other children that are going through it at this point in time right now.
So what do you want to tell people, especially survivors of domestic violence and people during COVID who are struggling, that may have lost everything and have lost hope?
So what I would tell them is, keep hope alive. And what I mean by keep hope alive is, even though you're in this situation right now where everything around you may seem like it's just going bad and you feel like you don't have the strength to keep fighting, as long as you have that hope and really have that faith as small as a mustard seed, your later will be better. And I'm a living testimony. I'm a living witness. I've been through it. I was at my rock bottom to where I wanted to take my life, and I always tell people I seen death in its own eyes, because I wanted to take my life. It wasn't that somebody was going to take it from me. It wasn't that God was going to call me back home. I wanted to. So when I look at that, I want to tell these individuals who are going through these things right now during this pandemic, or even the domestic violence, first and foremost, put God first. Second, take care of yourself and make sure that you continue to have that self-love for yourself, because if you don't have self-love for yourself, you can't love other people. Nobody's going to love you the way that you want them to love you if you don't even have that love for yourself. And that's what I had to learn too. And so I'm going to tell them, you take a day at a time. Don't put a time limit on it. If it may take you 3 years, it may take you 5 years to get back to where you feel like you're at a place in your life where you're at peace with everything that you've gone through, let that be it. Don't let somebody put a time frame on what it is for you to sit and get to where you need to be in your life. And you meditate. I always say you pray, meditate, and fast. That's what my pastor at my church always says is his motto, where you pray, meditate, and fast, because it's true. We go through so many things within a day, even in an hour, that you go through, that it's a lot that would just take you back, because there's so much stuff going on in this world right now. And so that's what I would tell individuals of domestic violence and individuals who are going through this pandemic, because you look at it, we all are in this pandemic. It's not just one person that's going through this pandemic. The entire world has been affected by this pandemic. And so at the end of the day, is we all have that one thing in common in this year, to be like, oh, we are all experiencing this together. So instead of us continue to put out that hate or could put out that negativity, we need to continue to still share that love and that joy and be here for one another, because we're all in this together. We're stronger together. No one person can do this all by themselves. Look at the doctors and the nurses, and I look at all of them who's in the front lines, and they're putting their lives on the line every day to sit up there and save other people. They couldn't have done it by themselves. And then you look at the grocery store clerks and all that, who are still going to work to make sure that we can still get the essentials that we need as far as food and as far as toiletries and stuff like that. They're putting their life on the line every day, but they're not alone in it. We all are. So if we continue to spread that joy and spread that love and just be there for one another, it'll make it so much better in the long run. It would. It'll make it so much better in the long run.
Perfect. Anything else you want to add or share?
Just take care of yourself. I got a lot more to go, because I'm only 32, going to be 33 in October. But I can just look back over the last 10 years of how much I developed as a person and how much I've grown, to where I'm thinking like, this is life. We all go through things. And, once you go through that, you'll look back over that and you'll realize, oh, I was stronger than I thought. So the things that I go through now, like, in 2017, I was homeless. That was something right there that was going to put my mindset back into that. But I was thinking like, nope, I'm going to be able to make it through. This too shall pass. Let me keep praying. Let me just ask God. It's a reason why he's allowing me to go through this. Let me just get what it is that he's trying to teach me and show me at this point in time and move forward. And that's what I did. Now, was it hard? Yes, it was. That's just another thing. We're all raised that we're supposed to have a roof over our head. You have the electricity, the water bill, stuff like that. Nobody just wakes up one day and says, I want to be homeless. This stuff that happens. I was homeless for 3 months, sleeping out of the backseat of my vehicle. But God still protected me even within those 3 months because he still made sure that I was getting fed. I was driving for a Lyft at the time. So, I would drive people around, that little money that I was getting, it was able to at least give me some food in my system and at least be able to keep gas in the car so I can continue to keep doing the job until I got the finances back up to sit up there and get into another place. That's how I look at it. I would tell people, just keep living because it does get better. When you hit those hard times in life, they're trials and tribulations. Don't look at it as something bad. Look at it as that is something that he's trying to teach you at some point in time of your life because it's something greater that he has for you. But you have to go through that thing necessarily to get to what it is that he wants you to receive. And you appreciate it more when it happens that way. Because I look at life completely different now, 10 years fast forward than I did 10 years ago. I knew it was always precious. But you know what? Sometimes as humans, we like, oh, it is what it is. We're invincible and stuff like that. You don't really understand the gift of life and what it is, until that person is gone. And, some of the families of the suicide survivors, my heart goes out to them because, me and my mom had a conversation and she was telling me that, one thing that I can at least say is that my son is still here. He's still here to share with me his story on why he wants to take his life. And there is many, and she was like millions of people who would never get that closure. And they have to live the rest of their life wondering why their son or their daughter took their life and that they didn't do anything to sit up there and necessarily help them when they really didn't know what was really going on with them in the first place. And I always tell people, with the parents or the teachers, take the time out to ask people how they're doing. Talk to them. Just say, hey, if you around them 24/7, whether you're not or whether you are, you know how they are. You know when you're around your loved one and something's off. Don't look at that as like dismiss it and be like, oh, they're fine. Ask them, hey, are you okay? 9 times out of 10, they might not share with you right then and there, but if you just let them know, hey, I'm here for you, I love you, I'm proud of you, in that moment, that's really all we need to hear at that point in time, is that somebody is there and they care for us and they love us and we're not in this alone. And the time that they want to come to you and want to talk to you about these certain things that they're going through, they will open up. Don't just look at them and okay, you'll be all right, it's okay, it's like, no, talk to them, show them the love, share the love, do to them as you want them to do to you.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. I appreciate it.
You're welcome, Christine. You're welcome, Christine.
And thank you guys so much for joining our conversation. If you think this video can help someone you know, please share it with them. And also remember to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Take great care of yourselves, and I'll see you again in my next video. Bye.